There are signs of autism in your marriage that you might be missing entirely because the most revealing ones don't look like problems at all. And one of them actually looks like the best part of falling in love. In this video, we're covering three of those signs from 23 years of our own marriage, including the one that caused Lori the most pain before she understood it, and the moment that finally connected all the dots. Stick with us to the end because that last one is how this comes out for a lot of couples without anyone ever planning it.
And just like always, this isn't about diagnosing your spouse or putting them in a box. It's about understanding what's really going on so you can stop fighting battles that were only our misunderstandings in disguise.
The first sign you might be missing is hyperfocus, and it slips past everyone early on because it looks exactly like the attention you've always wanted from a partner. When Lori and I started dating, I was intensely focused on her. That felt like romance, and it was, but it also had the single-minded intensity of how I engage with anything I find compelling. So over time, that same focus moves on to a project or a problem I'm solving, and the contrast can feel jarring to the person who experienced the earlier version.
I'll tell you, the early hyperfocus is a lot of attention and it's wonderful. Just what in my ADHD brain needed, and the biggest thing that convinced me just how much he loved me. And then one day, that focus landed more on his home projects. If I tried to get his attention, I would either get a response of a grunt or a hand gesture, or I found myself getting a 15-minute breakdown of something I have a zero interest in.
That's a fair assessment. I am fully capable of explaining a special interest in great depth to someone who has made it abundantly clear they'd rather be doing anything else. I'm aware it's happening. I continue anyways, but the thing to understand is that the intensity isn't neglect when it moves off of you. It's just how the attention works. And when one partner is that absorbed and the other feels to be on the outside of it, the disconnection is real. So if you've been feeling more like roommates than partners lately, we have a free guide called Reconnect in 10 minutes tonight. A simple structured check-in you can actually do at the end of a normal day. The link is in the description.
The second sign is the one I want to spend the most time on because it was the most confusing for me, and honestly, the most damaging. There were moments where I was clearly upset. Something real was happening, and Ryan would just not respond the way I expected. A blank stare, silence, or a comment. So, when are you going to go walk the dogs?
What was actually happening is that I didn't know how to respond. Reading what someone feels from their face or their tone and knowing the right thing to do in a charged moment, those are skills I've had to consciously build. They don't come automatically. I could see Lori was upset. I just didn't know what to do with it. So I did nothing, which, as she tell you, is the wrong answer.
It's the wrong answer because silence in that moment doesn't read as, I don't know what to say. It reads as, I don't care. What I eventually understood is that the blank stare is actually overload, too much emotional input, not enough processing room, no script available. It's not indifference, but rather a system of capacity. There was a moment early on where I asked Ryan about spending time with family, and he told me very plainly that sitting there through a long conversation was one of the hardest things he'd ever endured. This should have been one of the biggest tells, but I didn't know.
I meant it as an honest answer to an honest question, which is, I recognize, also a sign.
So watch for a partner who goes blank and silent right when you need the connection most. It's not a character flaw, but a processing difference, and naming that is where the real work starts. The third sign you might be missing is the one that finally connected everything for us. And for a lot of couples, this is how it comes out. Not through someone announcing, I think I'm autistic, but through the kids. When some of our children started struggling in school, there was a process to their diagnosis. I looked at the traits they were showing, the way they moved through the world, and I saw Ryan clearly and immediately. In fact, I wondered, is this autism or are they just like their dad?
Or both.
Or both. I knew without a doubt it wasn't coming from my side of the gene pool.
That was a hard moment for me. And honestly, even after our kids were diagnosed, I didn't admit it to myself for a long time. Lori would joke, didn't you know engineers are all somewhere on the spectrum? When I was eventually diagnosed officially, it still took adjustment. There's a stigma around being on the spectrum, and even knowing it isn't deserved. And encountering it in your own story is hard. But the reframe that helped me most is simple. Being autistic is just different, not less, not broken, different. I see patterns where other people miss, and I solve problems in ways that are genuinely useful. The same wiring that makes social dynamics harder makes other things much easier.
And looking back, the clues were there. The long car rides where conversations were a struggle, the missed sarcasms, the off the charts problem solving. I noticed all of it. But the things I noticed most were the things that made him a great person. So the rest got folded in around him.
Which is exactly how it should work. You fall in love with who someone is. The diagnosis is just a framework for understanding the parts that didn't fit where you expected them to.
When I listened to the world trying to tell me what a normal, healthy relationship should look like, I began to get discouraged because I didn't have one. Understanding Ryan helped me turn his characteristics into positives rather than negatives. He wasn't trying to be dismissive and emotionally unavailable or rigid. He was focused, determined, and thoughtful in every detail of his life. Understanding him also helped me understand just how much he loved me as he worked through habits that he saw were hurting me.
So those are three more signs: hyperfocus, difficulty reading emotional cues, and the dots that connect when a child gets diagnosed. Understanding these doesn't ask either of you to become a different person. It just gives you the right framework for what's actually been happening. Pick the one that hit closest and ask yourself a simple question: what would change if this were true? That's usually where things start to move.
And tell us in the comments which of these three you recognize. The more these patterns get named out loud, the less alone every couple feels in them.
Before we point you to what to watch next, if you can see these patterns where you're not sure which one is driving the most friction between you, we built a free quiz for exactly that. It's the neurodivergent couples clarity quiz. A couple of minutes and it identifies your main pattern, then sends you a free customized guide for it. The link is in the description. Now, if these three signs resonated, there are four more we covered in another video. The ones that are even easier to mistake for a personality quirk or just the way he is. So watch that video next, because when you pair what you just learned here with those four signs, you finally get the complete picture instead of half of it.
Thanks for watching, and remember,
Neurodivergent couples can make relationships work.